kind of stuff to do. It'll only take 10 or 15 minutes probably, but starting with Vint, I guess.
Thank you. So I have an interesting potential surprise for you. I don't know if this is going to happen because last night encountered Sergey Brin at an event, and he expressed a lot of interest in what you're doing. So he may show up this morning. If he does, he has a proposition for us. It's a problem. The problem has to do with helping people who have trouble communicating because of the local regimes and other conditions, who would like to both express themselves and know what's going on in the rest of the world. The DTN has the potential to help supply that kind of communication. You can imagine Sergey's family is from Russia. They managed to get away at a fairly tense time, and he cares passionately about this kind of problem. So he may come and describe what it is that he's looking for. He's looking for a very organic, a very distributed, very non-centralized communication capability that could be treated as both anonymous and also authoritative. That is to say, you can verify that you're the same party who communicated in the first place without necessarily revealing anything about who you are. This is the moral equivalent of saying, I have a public key pair, here's my public key, you can verify it's me again by encrypting something in the public key, challenging me, I will respond by decrypting and re-encrypting in your public key. The exchange is now authenticated even though neither of you necessarily knows who the other party is unless you choose to reveal that. Making this work, making routing work in this kind of environment is an interesting challenge. Keeping in mind particularly that it's a DTN environment and the bundle may have ended up on a memory stick somewhere and been physically carried someplace else and popped back into the system. So if Sergey comes, please hear him out. I wouldn't try to dive into detailed design, although with Sergey you can never tell what's going to happen next. He is also interested in the economics of such a thing. How would you actually sustain this sort of activity? We were talking about various kinds of micropayment models and other sorts of things. But what caught my attention was that there exists a communication system that we're all using today. It's called the Internet. And one could build an overlay, which is what DTN often does, in order to create the sort of the beginnings of this infrastructure. It doesn't have to be global. We just have to be able to show that such an overlay could be made to work. And you could literally kind of start like a kind of creeping mold. You could have it kind of growing on the underlying infrastructure. And if it's self-supporting, then you can imagine eventually that becomes a very significant adjunct to the existing system and might even in some stages replace parts of it if in fact people were willing to share, for example, unlicensed wireless bandwidth, which you saw happen. I don't know if you watched the Occupy Wall Street stuff, and regardless of what you might have thought about it, they were setting up sort of phantom Wi-Fi facilities that would plug in someplace to the publicly available internet and allow convenient communication. You can also see this kind of working in a crisis environment too, where you have no facilities left because of some disaster, and you just sweep in and provide infrastructure in order to help the response. So if Sergey comes, I ask your permission to let him describe what it is that he has in mind. One never knows, there might even be some funding behind it. So an opportunity to make something work with DTN is very high on my agenda because it will focus our attention on making sure that we can actually do something useful with it. So that might happen. And even if it doesn't, I'm going to pursue that with Sergey, because once again, it'll be a great focal point to show that this stuff is useful for purposes for which it was not necessarily originally designed. Thanks very much for being here.